Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast where topics of our interest we discuss by us for your entertainment. Some topics will be controversial, others will be unique. We will dive deep in topics and might blow your mind. Now that that's out of the way, I'm Matt, and this is Kyle, and this is The
Hello.
Reigns.
Hi.
All right, so the beginning of our first official episode, let's say, of the reins is the Federal Reserve because it's one of those things that just kind of gets curved to like the side of just I mean obviously it's there for a reason. It's like is it really?
What's it
So
used for?
yeah, so all right. So I did some research on this just to kind of get us into a baseline here, kind of where we could get started. So of course the Federal Reserve's main purpose of its creation was before it was signed in 1913 to be brought up as a concept. People, of course, went to their banks because each bank was separate at the time. Everyone went to their banks and was like, hey, where is my money? Where is my gold? Where is all this stuff that I gave the banks? And banks are like, oh, yeah, we sold all that and don't have any more of that. And it was like the Wild West of banking. There was no order because if you lived into this area, this bank worked this way. If you lived in this area, that bank worked this way. And that's just how it was. And due to those problems that when the whole crashing of those separate banks by themselves started to happen, the ultra rich like the Rockefellers and the Bushes and the Royals were all like, oh well, here's some loans to get you guys by. So they were like, yeah, but this isn't going to work, so we need to invent a new system. And then of course, they thought, well, here we should make the Federal Reserve, and we're going to make this, but we're not going to make it so that the feds are in charge of it because there could possibly be a politics to be playing into this. So they were like, well, we're going to make it privatized and have it separate out to its own joint committee to itself.
Well,
So
that sounds awesome. Like, what could go
right,
wrong?
yeah, yeah. No, so of course it sounded great and stuff, and it worked out great. Worked just fine. Then we built up Wall Street because now we could make like a market out of it, and everything seemed like it was looking up. It was like, wow, we are really becoming a nation here. And then the Great Depression happened, and of course the whole idea was, oh well, obviously enough that has nothing to do with the Federal Reserve all too much. Never happened before, but now all of a sudden, oh, this happened, and then in 2008, oh yeah, hey, so guess what? Yeah, so of course, the whole idea was they taught economics and stuff in elementary school, and that was by design. Make economics boring in the beginning, and then teach it to kids so that they have no interest in that again. And it was worked geniusly.
Sounds about right. It's
Yeah,
working, right?
it is. It is working well. Because then before this podcast, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go around and ask people I know if they could explain what the Federal Reserve is because I was
And
just
and
interested.
what did you get? And what did you get from that, Matthew?
Well, essentially, I got pretty much what I would be expecting, which is people had no actual clue what they actually did or why that they were there. All that they know is that they were there.
And that they're owned by who?
Well, most people had no clue that they were a private entity. They were just
Exactly.
Most people had no clue at all, and then they also were like, "Well, it's probably privatized for something else." And it's like, name one private company that has that much ability to control the market that they would not use it.
It's like if McDonald's was controlling federal funds, a private company. It doesn't
Uh,
make sense when you use a different name to it.
it doesn't. It doesn't. It sounds really weird now.
But go on.
So, yep. So, all right. So, uh, let's see. Yeah, because I mean, so as far as now, let's see. Yeah. So now, I guess now, so now, let's get into like the real big meat and potatoes here, because the Federal Reserve, we already most people, I don't know if they knew about it, but the secret meeting between the people who actually started the Federal Reserves, the secret meeting, only first names only, don't, blah blah blah, only know, and then we go to the Rothschilds little cabin that's in the middle of nowhere.
And
We
what did
don't.
they do?
Well, they had a meeting about
And what kind of meeting?
how the Federal Reserve is going to work.
And who was there? Like, are these just people like us that
Nope, not even close. Not even in the
uh,
ballpark.
so you're saying it's like little business owners?
Oh, no, not business owners. Well, I mean, they were business owners, but they weren't just normal business owners. These were the ultra elites at the time.
So exactly like right now, the top people run the country.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So now to get into the big meat and potatoes that I was going towards, but there's so much into this. That's the problem. There's so much to go over into this. But really to get into it. So now the question now is centralized banking. It's become not just national, but international.
Like a one world bank.
Yep,
Are you saying?
like that everybody seemingly follows the same concept of centralized banking.
So you're saying Russia does, and China and America have the same bank.
Well, that part it's hard to find. It's hard to find the information to just bolt that down to the ground.
But pretty much that's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, again, what is a centralized bank?
By these families that you are saying?
It could possibly be them.
Rockefellers, Rothschilds, JP Morgans.
Yeah.
So they all
Mm-hmm.
met at this cabin. They all decided to come up with this. What kind of act was it?
It was
Federal Reserve
the
Act?
federal reserve.
Gotcha. And these top bankers decided to tell us how to use our money and when to print it.
Yeah, see, so that's like the unique part of this. So, essentially enough, if you look up all the people originally involved in the Federal Reserve, all of them they're billionaires, but they're like net worth compared to what we're used to seeing nowadays as rich people is like laughable. It's like, oh yeah, they used to be important, but now they're not because uh they only have oh yeah, like the Rothschilds, they only have 3.7 was it 3.7 billion dollars. Like that's nothing into today's world. Like, you know we look at people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and people like that, and it's like, yeah, these people, they got like hundreds of billions of dollars. It's like, yeah, those are the real rich people. See, the Rockefellers, they used to be that, but it's like those people owned the Federal Reserve.
Why do you need money when you make the money and control the money?
Mhm. That's exactly
So,
it.
so having $1 trillion is meaningless if I could just go and just hit my printer button and just make whatever I want.
That's what it is. And the other big thing about all this is, of course, as we see now into the world, we see with the Federal Reserve going on that, of course, that's sidelined because now if gas prices rise, if inflation rises, because again, if you look at what does the Federal Reserve do? Its job is to control inflation.
And are they doing a pretty good job of that?
Well, now of course, if you go and ask like, how this is supposed to work, is they're saying, well, how this is supposed to work is that, well, money going in, money going out, and to correct it is with interest. So if we raise the interest, we could curb inflation.
Is inflation really a bad thing if it just raises a little bit each year?
Well, I mean, so here the problem is this is so, now the other big question is how much money do we actually have in circulation right now?
Good question.
Well, as
You
far
think
as what I
AI would know?
let's find out. Let's go. Let's look this up quick. How much? Come on, internet. Um, what do you got?
Still looking. How much physical cash is in
There you
circulation
go.
as of
Uh,
early of
uh,
2026? $2.4 trillion. Hmm. Well,
yeah,
8.9 trillion. Wow.
so we have 2 point, what's that again?
$2.4 trillion in physical currency, 8.9 trillion physical circling globally.
So now then, let's look up how many people are in the U.S.
This is interesting because how could we be like $38 trillion in debt, but
Yep.
there's only
So there
$2.4
is
trillion in
approximately
the world?
yeah. So there is approximately 349 million people in the United States.
So they all should be rich, right?
Well, if you think about it, we have, what is it? $2 trillion in circulation in just the United States.
Yeah.
That's like $7,000 a person almost.
Hmm.
So think about that. Think just just put on your tinfoil hat and just think about that for a minute. So each person pretty much should have on hand all the time seven $7,000 all the time on them.
Let's say I have 14,000. So there is a person out there that doesn't have $7,000.
There is, there is. They would be poor and broke.
Interesting. They give us this little amount to play with.
Well, it's just the part that, that is essentially enough. That's how much extra money there is within the United States for each
Cool.
person.
Cool. Cool. All
Yes.
right. So what's this Federal Reserve? How we know it's corrupt because the bankers made it. They set their
Well,
own
yeah.
rules. They made
So
it.
so now to
What's
get
going
into
on?
the modern age of the Federal Reserve. So now in the modern age of the Federal Reserve, because of course now being that this was enacted in 1920 and the Great Depression is over with. So we don't. That's over with. 2008's recession's over with. So all that's over with. Now we're in a 2026, and we have now pretty much made politics cool. So now,
Cool.
so now politics is cool. So now we are. So now people are, of course, as us as a species does. We pick left or right. It's no longer down the line because, well, now with the advent of the internet and the advent of scientists just, being able to say stuff. So essentially enough, it's like, oh, well, you know, obviously enough, that is just set in stone for what it is. If Donald Trump says this, it's true. That's just true. And then if the left say Donald Trump did this, then it's true onto their side. And then it's the whole part of the right and the left. Now we have social media to bring in more people, and now we look at it, and it's now the question of, okay, well, so obviously enough our politicians are choosing sides from lobbyists. People in social media now are picking sides and influencing people which sides to pick. And the real question is, where is all this like money and influence and design coming from? Because there's no way that, like Kroger or McDonald's or Burger King or, these places are just going out of their way to spend millions of dollars to be paying influencers or politicians to be talking about things.
They're trying to steal my $7,000. That's what they're trying to do.
Well, that's what they're trying to do, but it's the big question of now then, of course, just following the right wing stuff. And, some people, they looked into some of the protesters that are going out there, because there's people who go around the world and protest. And it's like, geez, like, how do you manage to do that if you don't work? And, well, they come to find out that these are paid protesters. Well, the
Yes,
question is,
everything's a work.
yeah, it
Everything's
is.
fake.
Every war, there's people paid to be running it.
Yes.
And so then, of course, we look into, well, okay, well, these are paid protesters. Then who's doing what? And then we come to find out that people like the Rothschilds, the Bushes, the Royals, and everybody are paying influencers and protesters to go out there and stir media influence.
They do it very well.
That is the whole plan. The whole plan is for them to not be into the limelight and for politics to be thrown into it. That is the whole plan. That's why the politicians will cover up and protect and make it so that it's about the president or themselves. Never throwing them everywhere anywhere in like the limelight.
Crazy times. Crazy
It
times.
well, I mean again, now the question is, even too, look at the Epstein files. That's not new. That's been around for a long time. And
Yes.
the Epstein files, it just started to become mainstream of we're going to release it. And all of a sudden, the weird thing is uh, President Trump then does this whole like left turn and is just like, you know what, we're going to go invade Iran, and that's not normal for him. It's more like a gamble, but I just, now the thing is it's like I don't understand the gamble, and it's now the question of what influenced him to make this gamble? Because of course the simple answer is, oh well, he's in bed with Israel, and it's like okay, well if he's in bed now with Israel, then what made him do what is the outcome here? What is the end game?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, see, now the other part now is, oh, okay, well, in 2016, he wanted to take down the Federal Reserve, and of course,
Interesting.
after that, it sunk down to where that's no longer even a talking point anymore. That's not even on like the table of a talk.
Yeah, he just goes after the current chair of the Fed, but he's only going to replace it with his own. So there's no change.
Well, see, now that's the whole thing. It's just like, will he do that? We do not know because anybody who's the president, could they do that? But at the same time, they can't do it because after he mentioned that, everything into his political career was hell. Everything. Just think about it. When was the last time that you were ever told that he was a good president? Never. You're never told that. And he was the only one on to the entire time that became this mainstream attack and hate him to the point of death after he mentioned anything that was like as radical as what he did in 2016, which, before, if nobody ever really ever talked about that stuff. That was more of just back burner idea.
Yeah, they're coming out and just showing us what they could do now. They're
Well,
putting
that's
it
what it
in front
is.
of us.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, when was the last time a president was shot at?
I have no clue. Probably Reagan, right?
Yeah, probably that. Probably back in like the 80s when that was a thing. Now then all of a sudden, here and then the other big one, Charlie Kirk. He started to get into the whole thing of starting to talk about the same exact stuff that me and you are talking about. Getting into people that are paying for protests, people that are involved into this stuff, people that are doing this, that, third, and then he gets killed.
Yes.
And now the question is, it's like as soon you could talk about politicians, you could talk about the economy, you could blame this person, blame that person, but the moment that you talk about anything that involves these particular families of any kind, all of a sudden everything is now flipped the script onto something else, and all of a sudden the FBI, the CIA, everybody is now all of a sudden able to just make everything work. The dots are connected real quick when you're killed.
Here, I'm just looking up these elite families here. I just want to see who they are.
Yeah, because with the Charlie Kirk, have you heard the recent stories with that one?
I have not. Enlighten me.
So, so as we know with the Charlie Kirk story, that he was shot by a guy 200 yards away, two football fields away. Two football fields away. Just stand at like the end of like a football field and try to assume that you put like a scope under a gun and you could shoot a guy two football fields away right in like the neck like that. But not only that, but they shot him with a
I'm an
gun.
avid hunter. I shoot guns a lot. And two football fields under pressure. You're about to kill somebody. You're probably shaking, sweating, your eyes going blurry, heart racing. 200 yards. That's a pretty good shot into a nice little 12-inch neck.
Yep, a 12-inch neck with a bullet that's used to kill a moose.
Hmm.
And the only thing now that
Yeah,
it
I
did
wouldn't
was
be
that little
using
scrape.
that to shoot that far.
No.
I would be
Nope.
using a little caliber.
Yeah, 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 that's yeah, like so now the
And what
updated
kind of bullet did they find? Or that they say it is now?
well, yeah, yeah. So then afterwards, it was the whole thing with like the FBI, whole thing with the FBI thing, where of course, it took them all of like 3 days to get all the information covered up